And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning looks like this with IFR along the Alaska range here, improving as you head south toward Bristol Bay. VFR there into Kodiak Island, VFR up into the Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet, eastward across Prince William Sound. IFR up here, Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, and kind of down, well, the Brooks Range up there along mountain areas. Marginal VFR, western interior, and IFR out here over the central and north central Bering Sea from the Pribilofs all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, and some more IFR creeping into the western Aleutians. Good VFR here along the Gulf of Alaska until you get in toward the Panhandle. Marginal VFR with some areas of IFR over toward the border. And for the afternoon, improving here for the southeast coast with areas of VFR breaking out over the inside waters. Good VFR here, Prince William Sound, most of the Copper River Basin into Cook Inlet, and actually into the Kuskokwim Valley, all the way out to the Yukon River here. And then marginal VFR, the Talkeetna Mountains up to the central eastern Alaska range, Tanana Valley, all the way up to Eagle, and then a little bit of a break to the north there, and then marginal VFR for the Brooks Range with IFR along the Arctic coast. Bering Strait here, St. Lawrence Island, St. Matthew Island, and the Yukon Delta coast, IFR, and then moisture flowing eastward here, bringing IFR into Adak and then Atka. And for the morning hours Friday, now we've just got a narrow band of some IFR here with a system out there to the west, affecting mainly Adak and Atka Islands. Marginal VFR for the Bering Sea, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, southern Alaska here, south of the Alaska Range, all VFR right over to Yakutat. Lower conditions up in the interior with some IFR again along the Brooks Range, over the Seward Peninsula area, and then marginal VFR for the North Slope out to the Arctic coast. And still some IFR there over toward the eastern border of the Panhandle. And for the afternoon, that disappears, leaving just a lot of marginal VFR here for the southeast coast into the Gulf of Alaska. Marginal VFR over the Copper River Basin and areas of on the east side. IFR there for the eastern North Slope, central eastern Brooks Range. And marginal VFR with areas of IFR out to the west, but a lot of IFR, or a lot of VFR here. Copper River Basin, Cook Inlet to Kodiak Island into Bristol Bay, and marginal VFR for the Bering Sea with IFR now extending from the Alaska Peninsula westward here to Adak and Atka. And for the passes, Anatuvik and both Adigan, we'll see some improvement during the day tomorrow, starting IFR and then becoming marginal VFR. Improving also for Lake Clark and Merrow, becoming VFR in the morning, and rainy IFR becoming VFR probably by noon through the afternoon. And for windy, also starting out with lower conditions early and then becoming better throughout the day. Isabel, that same pattern and forecast. And from Intasta, marginal VFR becomes VFR. Same forecast for Tanita. And for Portage, also possible marginal VFR. Could be VFR the entire day, but there could be some low clouds, fog early on, creating marginal conditions there, or maybe even some brief IFR. And then VFR for the remainder of the day. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR becoming VFR. Freezing levels here, about 2,000 feet western Arctic coast. They're up in the Chukchi Sea. Otherwise, 4,000 feet all the way down into northern Cook Inlet. Back out over the central Bering Sea here with the main jet now south of the Panhandle. So 6,000 feet there south of the south of the Dixon entrance area. And also 6,000 feet here right over the eastern Aleutians. Icing system pressing into the west here over the Bering Sea brings the best chance of any significant icing will be out towards Shimei and Attu, shifting slowly eastward. Otherwise, just a risk of some light icing there for the eastern Aleutians. Yukon Delta across Norton Sound could see some isolated moderate mixed icing, as well as a couple areas here over the interior and the southeast coast. Look for light to isolated moderate rime or mixed icing there from just about covering the entire region. And moving on to the jet stream here, again, main jet here south of the Panhandle, so you're kind of on the cool side there, keeping it showery and unsettled there, and this acts to keep any heavy precipitation off to the south, kind of cuts the moisture flow off. And looking at 70 knots out of the west-northwest here, coming into Cook Inlet, light up over the interior all the way to the Arctic coast, and the jet core here south of the Aleutians, but still about 80 knots there along the chain or so. And then for 3,000 feet, or I'm sorry, 9,000 feet, low pressure at this elevation, again keeping the stronger winds to the south and the heavier wind and precipitation with it, but this return flow around there could bring some 30-knot winds into the Alaska Peninsula. No significant winds to the north over the Bering Sea. Out here to the west, ahead of a front pushing into the western Bering, maybe some 30-knot winds with that at 3,000 feet. Otherwise, that's about it. And for 3,000 feet here, we've got light winds here over the southeast coast into the Gulf of Alaska. All of interior Alaska winds looking light with high pressure along the Yukon Delta coast. Bering Sea, light winds. Now this low here just south of the eastern Aleutians, 50-knot winds just to the south-southeast of Unalaska Island, clipping the area there. And then the front out to the west looking at 35-knot winds from the south. Turbulence-wise, with that band of southerly winds there, could be some isolated moderate turbulence there. Amchitka Island to Shimian-Attu. And then with that system just to the south there, could be some considerable moderate turbulence, considerable moderate turbulence here for the Unalaska Island area. Otherwise, maybe a little choppy here for the Prince of Wales Island area, and maybe not.